So, a big thing that comes up a lot, right, is do boring ads actually work? Like making great creative is really hard, right? But what does great creative really even mean? Um, I want to run through a conversation that I had with a good friend of mine, a colleague. He's a really smart guy. Um, I'm going to censor out his information because I don't need to embarrass him because he already knows he's wrong. But I'm sure he's shaking his head. But thing is that I got into a little bit of a friendly argument with like a colleague friend about boring ads, right? And he got what he called a really boring ad, and he put up a thing on his Instagram story and was like, "Oh, this is a terrible ad" and stuff like that. I was like, hold up a second, like. I've done a lot of work in like the direct to consumer fashion space, right? I've scaled some pretty cool brands, probably some brands, folks out there have heard of, especially in like men's fashion and stuff. Um, and boring was our bread and butter. And what do I mean by that? What I mean is that a lot of advertisers, right, get caught up in this notion of wanting to create beautiful ads, like ads that are like art, right? And there are some truly creative people out there, way more creative than me, that make amazing work. But what does amazing work mean? Does amazing work mean beautiful to other advertisers? Are we trying to impress other advertisers? Is that what we're doing here, right? And so I wanted to make this video today to kind of challenge the notion that you really need to make great looking ads, right? Like from like an artistic standpoint, in order to be effective. So the conversation I had with him was he posted it. He said, oh, this is boring. It's terrible. And I said, don't knock it. My best performers for a clothing brand that I worked with a couple years back was literally the neckline of a crew shirt, right? Like it was just the guy's neck, a little bit of beard stubble, like mine. I really need to shave, but just his neckline, the beard stubble, and then the shirt, right? That was our best performer. That ad returned 5x like return on ad spend, right? So for every $1 in ads that we spent, we got $5 in sales. That's pretty good, like for Facebook ads, right? Like generally speaking, working with a direct to consumer brand, you want to see like a 3 to 5x return. Like generally, that's profitable. Also, says neckline I could get, but that image at the front of the tee is especially bad. I go, just saying that stuff works. I go, the brand I was working with was flat and minimal, so it fit, but still, he goes, I guess if they're a boring person, they work. And then the big thing is that my feelings don't matter. Like your feelings don't matter. So what I really want to hit on today is just this notion of your feelings as a marketer do not matter, right? I don't care if you like an ad. I care if it works, right? Obviously, don't take that to the extreme, right? You can't test every single thing in the world. You have brand guidelines and a specific image that you're trying to build. But as long as it's inside of that image, you don't have to like necessarily the ads that you're running if they're effective. I run ads all the time that I don't find visually appealing necessarily, but have been proven effective by the data. So I just want to say, like, this is really a defense of quote unquote boring ads, right? And really kind of a notion, and I want to run through this specifically for like fashion, DTC, e-commerce folks, that you can run ads that are very like creative. That's not terribly difficult, right? If you have like a decent camera, I mean, hell, with an iPhone or like a Samsung S10 or something like that, right? You can take photos that are good enough to perform with the best of DTC brands, right? Get like a friend to model, right? Pay them $50 for an hour. Take these photos, like kind of flat product shots. Models without faces is a big one that I found works. And just try it. A lot of people are really intimidated by the creative side of it. It doesn't have to be that hard. So this is the brand that we were actually specifically talking about, March Tea, right? And this is what I'm talking about. When I worked with that specific men's fashion brand, this is the sort of shot that would kill it, right? It's a neckline, it's a little bit of beard, and just the shirt, product front and center. Neckline, shirt, product front and center, product front and center, product front and center, right? Like all this stuff. Actually, I tend to found that shirts or ads that had people's faces in them or they were doing action shots didn't work nearly as well, right? So I think the two lessons that I want you to come away with are three lessons. Number one, what you want as a marketer does not necessarily matter, right? You should test lots of different things and let the data guide you. Now, I'm not saying go completely by the data. Obviously, follow brand standards and things like that. But if something's inside the brand standard, but you just personally like it and it's working, who cares? Set your ego to the side. Okay. Not helpful if for you to override it. It's something that's working, right? Number two, making great creative that converts. I'm not talking about great creative to like win, a Clio or whatever, or a Canes line or Cans line or whatever. My pronunciation's terrible, but like an award, right? Like, is not the same as something that like crushes it on Facebook ads, right? You don't have to do this big expensive shoot. You can take an iPhone, you could take the product, you could take a decent looking model, and you can just shoot it honestly against a white wall in your basement. Like, it doesn't have to be hard. Don't be intimidated. And then the final thing, like I said, set your ego to the side. It's not as hard to make great creative as you think. And the final thing is just, like I said, let the data be your guide. Like, if something works, double down on that, right? Be intentional about that testing inside that data. And what I mean is that if you see something that's working, like flat product shots with just necklines, do more of that, right? This brand, I think, is really smart because they're clearly doing more of that, right? 3 ads here, carousels with necklines, right? Again, so clearly what they're doing is they're finding works. And, I have, like I said, working with brands in a similar space, found a similar thing works. And so you set your ego to the side and you keep moving forward, with those insights, those learnings, and you build a great brand and you focus on, the work that actually gets the job done rather than necessarily what your preconceived notion is. It doesn't have to be as hard as you think. Okay. You can do it. Anybody can do it with very basic equipment and a great product and the willingness to step outside of your comfort zone and do boring things, right? Taking a risk doesn't necessarily mean taking a risk doesn't necessarily mean doing something super zany. Sometimes it can mean doing something really boring or seemingly boring, in order to kind of hit your goals, because your KPIs, your goals, your key performance indicators are all that really matter at the end of the day when you're a marketer, right? So thank you all for watching. Let me know if you have any questions. Do you agree with me? Do boring ads work, right? Let me know in the comments. Appreciate everybody and happy marketing.